Coming up on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
You just blew my mind, man. C'est la vie, as they say in France. I'm sure they say something like that in Italy, too.
When I went and studied with my mentor in Italy, Giuseppe Quintarelli.
He's the godfather of Amarone.
He is. Now you know why they had all those bacchanalias.
And now, the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
The cell phones have been silenced. The wine is poured. Oh, and we'll pour some more. Just stick around. And just like that, the podcast begins. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast. The wine podcast that's not all about wine. The wine podcast like no other. I'm your host, Mike Stone. Welcome to the Wine Podcast, heard in 48 of these United States and all over the world, on 6 continents and in 85 countries, spanning the globe, from Zurich in Switzerland to Koropi, Greece, from Melbourne, Australia to Nagoya, Japan, and wherever you are. Thanks for finding me. Tell your friends. Make some more friends and then tell them too. Spread the word on your social media. I'm saying all of this under the assumption you've already subscribed and already given the podcast a brilliant review on whichever podcast app you are using. And now you have a chance to help out in a different way with your dollars. To help keep the podcast commercial free, you can pitch in as a sponsor, just like Julie Cohen in Tempe, Arizona did recently. All it takes is $3, $5, maybe $10 a month. It is greatly appreciated. Click on the Support the Show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com to get started. Now let's get started with the show. I'm back in the Vintner's Room at Nicholson Ranch Winery in Sonoma. It's after hours. During regular business hours, I pour wine and talk to people all day. You can come see it for yourself. I tell stories. Some of them are true. Come hang. But now let's chat with my guest. He is a native of Sicily, but was raised in San Francisco, and now is a winemaker here in Sonoma, doing something a little bit different. He's also a noted paella chef. From Mora Estate Winery, welcome to the podcast, Fabiano Ramaci. How's it going?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm so delighted to be here.
I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Cheers, my friend.
It's the truth.
I like to highlight unique things happening in wine on this show. And what you're doing is very unique in California. You're making wine using a process that comes from the ancient Romans and still happening today in the Veneto region of Italy.
Correct.
A wine called Amarone, which is my favorite Italian wine. So I had to have you on to talk about it. Not to mention, I've been looking forward to tasting the wine, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But first, Fabiano, what was it that possessed you to do all of this? When did you get it into your head that you, 1, wanted to make wine, and 2, make a California Amarone?
Well, I developed a palate at a very young age working at my father's restaurant in San Francisco. It was called La Traviata.
La Traviata.
La Traviata.
What was your father's name?
Gaetano.
Gaetano and Fabiano.
Yeah, it has to have it. You got to have a vowel. Being in the restaurant business, I grew up with a lot of older people, and I came across wonderful wines. I was drinking Barolos and Barbarescos and Brunellos and Amarones when I was 12, 13, 14 years old.
Okay, that's quite an education.
It was, when my friends were popping a couple beers here and there, and I'm drinking all these fine wines,
right.
And now they're drinking fine wines and I'm drinking beer.
It's true. They say it takes a lot of beer to make good wine.
You see, there you go. And I even make grappa now, too.
Oh, nice. Now, let's talk specifics. Explain Amarone to me like I'm 10 years old.
Well, it dates back to Roman times. The grapes are harvested. They're set on trays. We also have, plastic racks if you can use in more modern style. But I do have the bamboo racks that they use in Veneto to make the Amarone. It's a fascinating process to watch the grapes go through their affirmation of drying the grape. The grapes get evaporated. They lose their water, and so it concentrates the structure and the complexity of the wine.
How much of the liquid do they lose
I
over
lose
that?
I lose at least 50%.
50%.
Absolutely, if not more.
Thinking about that to me makes me wonder, how can you even make wine after you've done that? Do they go through the regular process? You throw them into a fermentation tank and
Sure.
they ferment, and you got all the juice in there?
The thing is that you have to pick the grapes when they're like around 22 bricks. So
less ripe.
less ripe.
Okay.
Yes, because
Okay.
the ripeness comes in at the passimento process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that you get, if you pick them when they're less ripe, you're concentrating all the flavors, which would include all the sugars.
Correct.
So if you pick at 24, 25 bricks.
Yeah, so what I do is wait till the seeds turn nice and toasty and they have some good flavor going on, but the sugar's still low. We kind of like monitor that all the way till September, late September, early part of October. I don't generally want to go as far as like the end of October because they'll get riper and then we'll have to fight the birds and so forth, you know. So you have to be very gentle. You have to be very patient. We go to the vineyards at crack of dawn. We hand select all the beautiful clusters. We gently set them in the trays. We bring them back to the winery where it's temperature controlled, and we allow the grapes to go through their process, which takes about good 90 days.
90 days
90
on the
days.
racks. In what I read in a couple of articles about you, they in both of these articles described the area where you're drying the grapes, and I loved this term because they both used it, in a Zen-like atmosphere. How do you create the Zen-like atmosphere?
You know what? It's within myself.
The grapes get it from you.
Well, you know,
You create the environment because you were there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's not only, it's a philosophy, it's
Right.
a way of life.
Yeah.
It's an understanding Mother Nature. The wine is not formulated where every single year is going to be the same. There is some variation because of Mother Nature. And so I'm just following my instincts here. Sometimes with the Amarones, they can get overripe and you have residual sugar and higher alcohol, which I control that because I bring it in at 22 bricks.
Okay.
So that explains why the style is a little bit leaner, but it's very elegant and very seductive.
Well, let's taste it. Come
Okay.
on. Pour me a little more of the Rosato.
The Rosato, sure.
Fabiano has brought 3 different wines, and they're all made from the grapes that are grown in the Veneto region of Italy, which means there's not a lot of those grapes here. Because, you know, we have all the Pinot here, we have all the Cab here, we have the Sauvignon Blanc, but we don't have a lot of these particular grapes. Let's talk about the Rosato first. You make it from which grape?
I make it from the same grapes I used for the Amarone. And so I have 9 different varieties. Corvina Veronese, Corvignone, Rondonella, Molinara, Negara, Dindarella, Oscilletta, Crotina, and Rossanola. I can make a song out of this.
I was just going to say, where's my piano?
Yeah, in the key of Love.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are the varietals. You know, at the time when I was working in Napa Valley, after I sold my restaurant, after having it for 10 years, and I took up winemaking as a hobby, I wanted to turn it into a career. So I ended up in Napa Valley and I became friends with various producers. And I was asking them, I go, is anybody making Amarone-style wines? And they're like, no, there's not. And I'm like, why not? That's like a world-renowned wine. Why wouldn't it be? This is where my fate and my destiny comes into play.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing because it's like it was there for me to grab it. And I asked them and they said, well, the grapes are not available. It's hard to make. It's very labor intensive. It goes through a lot of different issues. And I like, it's perfect. It's exactly what I want to do. The challenge of making a beautiful wine that was made with what the Romans made 2,000 years ago.
And you're stepping into the void where there isn't one made in California.
Yeah,
Really.
I'm not doing it because it's a trend or a gimmick because it was available.
It's not a trend.
No, well, there are
It's from
people
a long time ago.
Well, yeah, but there are people that are trying to make this style of wine now, but they're only using the varietals that they have available. So what separates me from them is that I have the indigenous varieties that I acquired. I grafted onto existing vines over 20 years ago and started out with Alexander Valley. Then I went to Dry Creek, then I went to Russian River, and this Rosato is coming from our newest vineyard that we grafted 4 years ago.
Okay.
It's in Sebastopol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's technically in the Russian River Valley.
Yeah.
AVA.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's already getting wonderful recognition with the high-end restaurants that I, sell my wines to, and even the Michelin star restaurants, which I can mention them if you like me to.
Please do.
Well, like French Laundry and Atelier Crène in San Francisco.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we got Kokari, we got Montage, we got great restaurants like in Santa Rosa, like Lagar Restaurant, the French restaurant.
Okay.
They've embraced the brand immensely. I'm very proud to see how people are really enjoying it. And there's a common thread between all the sommeliers that really love these wines, because they're not fruit-driven like just regular California wines. These wines are drinking like they're European.
All right, I can't wait to get to the reds, but I want to talk about the Rosato
Yeah.
first. Okay, so it's a pale pink color. It's not super tutti-frutti in color, nor in flavor. It's not super fruit-based. I get a lot of earth on this. It almost has a smell of like clay.
I also pick up a lot of aromatics of floral aromatics, but it also has some stone fruit characteristics, a little tangerine zest in the finish. It's bright. It's 2024. I just released it.
Okay.
It's just a great food wine. Perfect with this type of weather.
Well, it was a nice warm day here in Sonoma.
It was, and we're going to have a lot more of those coming.
Yes, we are. Summer's coming.
Should I turn you on to the Valpolicella?
You got to come see us. Yes, pour a little bit of red in my glass. And while you're doing that, I'm going to present to you your very own set of official Tall Mike Wine podcast coasters. Those are for you to take home and use in your home or use at your winery, wherever you are going to be drinking wine and need a nice place to set your wine glass. And if you'd like your very own set of Tall Mike Wine podcast coasters, they are the official coaster of the Tall Mike Wine podcast. All you need to do is send me an email. You can do that to tallmikewine@gmail.com. And I will gladly pack up a stack of coasters for you. They'll brighten up your wine drinking environment and maybe create a Zen-like atmosphere.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And let's mention also the fact that, anything I do is not mainstream. An extension of my personality and who I am is also the bottles that are hand-painted.
Those are beautiful. I saw a video, I believe on YouTube, where somebody was painting your bottles. Who is that person?
Oh, that might have been my ex-wife.
Okay, well, she's got a beautiful hand. She may have other issues.
I painted this one.
She may have other issues.
I think we were going to get into this one, but it was great. She was in my life when we created this brand. I'm very grateful, but it was my destiny to pursue it and continue with what I'm doing.
C'est la vie, as
Yeah.
they say in France. I'm sure they say something like that in Italy, too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had such deep roots in Italy. You were born in Sicily,
I was.
but you left pretty young.
I came to this country with my parents when I was 10 months old.
You were a baby.
And guess where I ended up in San Francisco?
Maybe North Beach?
Yeah.
Where all the Italians are.
Grant and Lombard.
It's one of those things now. People talk about going to the Italian neighborhood in San Francisco, and to me, it just feels like another neighborhood where there's maybe a few more Italian restaurants than you would expect.
Sure.
But maybe when you arrived there, it was more like what people have in their head.
Oh
is
my
like,
God, I was there.
all the Goombas are there,
I'll let
that kind of thing.
I mean, I'll be telling you about my age, where I'm at, but, I was there in mid-60s and early 70s. I mean, this was a great time, a wonderful time. You had mentioned about the wines and how I got into it being at my dad's restaurant. Then I thought, well, when was the first time I actually read wine?
Do tell.
And, I thought I was when I was an altar boy.
Okay.
But it actually stems even further than that. In the wintertime, my mom used to make me breakfast before I used to go to school.
Okay.
And she used to make sure that I was warm when I was walking to school. Okay. So she used to give me a little shot of Marsala. So how about that one?
And how old were you at that point?
I was probably about 9, 10.
Okay. All right. That's just a different kind of parenting than we have now, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was all happy going to school. And
nowadays, people might be shocked.
I've done so well.
She's giving them alcohol.
Thanks, Mom.
You've turned out quite nicely, I want to say.
Yeah. Everything was in moderation. She just wanted to keep me warm while she was wrapping a scarf around my neck.
That's the key, man.
In my jacket.
That's the key.
Yeah.
So tell me why your family moved to San Francisco from Italy. Did you have a big family back there still? I
do have my family. Half of them are in Sicily. The other are in Toronto, Canada. My parents are just looking for a new life. They were actually in Venezuela for 14 years, where my sister was born.
Okay.
I was conceived in Venezuela.
Okay. So they were in Venezuela, and they came back to Sicily?
Yeah.
And then they came to the United States.
Yeah. My father's sister, my aunt, she was already here, and she kind of paved the path for us to kind of come. She was very, very grateful. I mean, great. I mean, she was amazing that she gave us the opportunity and helped us, establish an apartment and kind of get things started.
Okay.
So
she
very
gave you
grateful.
the entree to North Beach. So you grew up with a bunch of kids probably that were also Italian immigrants or first generation?
Yeah. I went to St. Peter's and Paul, which was about a mile away from where I was living.
Okay.
My parents, they came to this country and they were speaking Italian the whole time.
Right.
Because they were all Italian.
Sure, you're in the neighborhood, so you're speaking the lingua franca.
My first language was Italian, and then, English, and I speak Spanish, and I'm learning French.
Très bon, très bon.
Très bon. Très bien.
Yeah, so you have a sister.
I do have a sister.
And then you have other siblings?
No, I don't.
And is she still around? Is she still here?
Oh, yeah.
Is she still in San Francisco?
No, she's actually living in Pacifica. She just
I love Pacifica.
She just became a grandmother.
Oh, that's nice.
They had a jewelry business in Pacifica for 35 years. They just retired, and the first page in the new chapter in their life, they became grandparents.
That's awesome. Pacifica is right down there on the coast. If you're looking at the map of California, look at the San Francisco Bay Area. You just kind of go down and to the left, and you'll find this little hamlet, Pacifica. I don't know that you can do this anymore, but you used to be able to go to the bowling alley there and sit in the bar at the bowling alley and watch people bowl if you turned one way on your bar stool. And then on the other way on your bar stool, you could turn and you could look at the ocean. And I think that was a very unique bowling alley situation. And I believe that bowling alley is now closed. But that's my main memory of Pacifica.
Yeah, but you know what? The best Taco Bell is located not far from there.
They have the fancy Taco Bell where some people got married, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It was like some kind of contest.
They actually serve margaritas there.
They serve margaritas. It's still no excuse for
What
the
a great
food,
property. What a great property, for sure.
All right, we have the second wine in our glasses now. Tell me what this one is called.
Okay, so it's called Valpo. It's short for Valpolicella.
Okay.
Not only that, it's the Valpolicella varieties that go into making this wine in the Amarone, but technically I can't call it Valpolicella, so I came up with the short version of that, which is Valpo.
Valpo.
Yeah, so it has the 9 varieties that I mentioned a few minutes ago.
Okay.
In addition to that, when I went and studied with my mentor in Italy, Giuseppe Quintarelli.
Giuseppe. He's the godfather of Amarone.
He is. He said to me, he looked at me right straight in the eyes, and he said, Fabiano, when you work on your Valpolicella, add a little bit of Cab Franc. And I said, Signor Quintarelli, is there a particular reason why you want me to add Cab Franc to a Valpolicella? And he goes, well, it's one of my favorite varietals. I use it for my wines, and it grows well where you live, so I think you should take advantage of that. So if Signor Quintarelli says to me, add a little Cab Franc to it for a little oomph, I'm going to do it.
Quintarelli wines, I was first introduced to them when I moved to the Bay Area a little over 20 years ago, and I was working in a nice restaurant in San Francisco, helping to manage the wine list, so I had to walk through the cellar often, and those Quintarelli labels, they have that handwritten look, and they just look like something from another world, like a different type of approach to the whole idea of labeling and marketing your wine that just kind of screams old school. This is how we've always done it. This is how we're going to keep doing it because this is what works.
Right.
And Giuseppe Quintarelli was one of those first things that I learned about and was my first entree into Amarone. And as I said earlier on, it's my favorite of the Italian wines.
Well, the Bertanis, the Mossis are out there as well. I just know that one time somebody gave me a bottle of an Amarone that was almost 30 years old.
Okay.
So I waited till it was 30 years old, and I opened it up with my parents on Christmas night. I had made ossobuco.
Okay.
I popped the cork.
That's a whole themed dinner right there.
Oh, yeah. I popped the cork. I poured the wine in the glass. I took a sip. And it brought a tear in my eye. And I said, oh, my God, if I can possibly make something like that at some point in my life, it would be very, very desirable. Dreams do come true.
This wine, the Valpo, is this not made in the style of the Amarone? Is this more of a traditional red wine?
Well, these are the fresh grapes.
Okay.
But in addition to that, there is a little bit of Cab Franc for the elegance that the Cab Franc brings to any kind of wine.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of Ripasso.
Okay. So you repass.
I do.
You repass.
Oh yeah,
I know that.
I can't
term.
stop there.
Ripasso.
I can't just stop with those two components. I mean, there was I could have done 100% ripasso, but I said no. I think a little bit is kind of like being a winemaker. Being a chef made me a better winemaker. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And so this is kind of the same thing. I have the same mentality, a thought in my mind when I think how I'm going to take the approach of making this wine. So rather than being 100%, I thought maybe a third. And take the lees from the Amarone, which has wonderful flavor, re-ferment it,
Right.
and let it go through its process, and then go ahead and press it out.
Right. So if you're not sure what we're talking about here, when we say ripasso or ripazza, it means they're repassing those Amarone grapes that they've dried out in a Zen-like environment and then made wine from, for the big wine, the first wine, the Amarone. And then they reuse them. They go through the vineyard again. This is what they traditionally do. They go through the vineyard again after they've made the Amarone, and they pick all the rest of the grapes, and they make more like what you would say is a standardly produced red wine, and then they add the Amarone that they've pressed out and made the first wine from to the ripassa and create kind of a baby Amarone.
Yeah.
So that's what this is.
It does, but it's it's got the beautiful garnet color to it. What's nice about this too is that this is a 2019, which is my current vintage.
Okay.
It has like 3 AVAs in here.
Yeah.
Alexander Valley, Dry Creek, and Russian River. It's like the best of the AVAs, really, in one bottle.
It's like Northern Sonoma County's greatest hits.
Yeah. Right. And don't forget that I'm also sharing a romance in a bottle.
There you go. It's got this really great, almost purpley color. It still looks very, very, very youthful. How long did it spend in barrel?
18 months.
It's got really nice violets going on here. There's so much flowery.
You just nailed it.
Flowery. Even I'm tasting violets, and I've never put a violet in my mouth. But
yeah.
I smell the aroma.
Well, let me just tell you something
And sip it.
about mentioning that right now. Is that when I got the cuttings, from the hillsides of the Valpolicella area, and also from the valley floor.
Okay.
Now, where Winterelli's vines come from has more of the violet characteristic, and down in the valley floor, it's more of roses, like the baby roses.
Oh.
Yeah. So
okay.
that was very good of you to pick that up.
I host the Tall Mike Wine podcast for a reason.
You nailed it, baby.
So much.
Yeah.
And it's also quite fruit forward, though.
It is.
Would you agree?
Yeah, and another thing that I also want to mention is that I am not being controlled or followed by the consortiums. The consortiums, regulate the authenticity of a product, whether it's Parmesan cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano,
Right.
or prosciutto, or balsamic vinegar. I like to follow the same guidelines. So when I released my Amarone, it was like not sooner than 5 years.
Okay.
Now, I'm a small producer. I can hold my wine back. So we're drinking the 2019 Valpolicella.
Yes.
So it's not 2019 because I couldn't sell it. It's because I held it back.
Right. So that's the thing with being a small producer, and you're not in some big corporate environment. I explain that to people here. This is a small winery, Nicholson Ranch. And I say, most big wineries that are, got a whole room full of accountants in an office somewhere are saying, you see those grapes there? They're growing. You need to pick them, and you need to turn them into wine. And within the next 2 years, you need to turn all that wine into cash flow. And that is the way the wine business works. So you go to the grocery store, you go to a wine shop right now, you're going to see wines from 2022, 2023, and some from 2024, because all the new releases are basically made and sold at the same time. What you're doing, and we do here as well, is you hold it back until it's ready.
Yeah. I had to keep 2 jobs going, even a third job if possible, when I had, I had my family, I had a roof over their heads and taking care of my business and still keeping my dream alive, You don't just purchase a winery and start making wines and like, oh, wow.
Well, and you don't own a winery. You have a wine brand that you nurture.
Exactly.
And that's a different thing than, having a brick and mortar store where you've planted a vineyard and you're making wine.
But if someone were to want to open up a place as a destination, you're definitely going to have to start with somebody else's facility.
Right.
And make your wines and, and age them and bottle them. And when they're ready to be released, hopefully by that time you can actually have a place where people can come and enjoy and capture the essence of what you're trying to create.
And let them taste the wine in a Zen-like environment.
That's like the fourth time you said it already.
I love that.
I love that.
Everywhere I look, I'm like trying to research.
It took
Fabiano
a long time to
here.
get to this point.
I'm trying to research Fabiano, and everybody mentions this Zen-like environment. I'm like, all right, I got to meet this guy.
You know what? It's the inner peace that I have being in the business.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like it's like work.
Right.
If it's really a true pleasure.
It's that
and I
thing
enjoy
they
it.
always say, find what you love to do.
I do.
And you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is what you would do if you just could do whatever you wanted to
And
do.
being sincere. You
Yeah.
know, I'm a small producer. Yes, I'm looking for opportunities of growth in the future.
Right.
Hoping that maybe one day somebody will see and believe in what I have already established as somebody that didn't grow up in the wine industry. Because if I grew up in the wine industry, whether I was in Italy or here, I would be at a different level at this point.
Sure.
But since I grew up in the restaurant business, it was something that I just really wanted to pursue. And at the time when I had my restaurant, I was in my early 20s, and I had it for 10 years, and that really took a lot of my time. But I took up winemaking as a hobby, and I wanted to turn it into a career. And one of my customers became a friend, also became like a partner that is also kind of affiliated in this brand itself.
Okay.
Because he's helped me with my dreams as well. And his name is Dominic.
Dominic.
He's a brother from another mother.
Brother from another mother.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you know what? The great thing is that we got to pick each other
Right.
to become brothers.
Some family you're born into, some family you choose.
Yeah, no, it's great.
They find you.
It's
you
a
find
great
them.
connection.
The thing about you not growing up in the wine business is now you're playing by your own rules. If you grew up in the wine business, you'd probably be playing by a little more of the wine business's rules. You know, you'd have been brought up to say, this is how it's done. This has to happen, and then this has to happen. And we have to be very specific about this thing that we do.
Sure.
But you, since you did it on your own and it was your own inspiration, are playing by your own rules.
Yeah, but if we were to quadruple our production or so forth, then I understand that as well. But for what I've created with the Valpolicella varieties that we're talking about today, this is never going to change. These bottles will always be hand painted by me. I touch every single bottle that is out there in the marketplace.
So let's talk about that. You make how many cases of wine a year under your label?
I'm under 1,200 cases.
So at least 1,000, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Every bottle is painted by you?
Except the rosé. Because,
Well, the rosé has a printed
except the
label.
rosé. I used to paint the rosé, but since I use acrylic paint, if you set the bottle in an ice bucket, there's chances that the paint could come off.
Well, that's not going to be cool.
No.
There'll be paint in your
So
ice
I made
water.
an executive decision a long time ago based on that we have a paper label, and the rest of the bottles are hand painted, and it's like the cherry on top of the cake.
Right?
I am part of the experience of these high-end restaurants that are turning their customers on and taking them on a journey with the food and the atmosphere and their service. And here, if they get turned on to my wine, you have a hand-painted bottle, one of one, that is a gift to you after you finish this bottle,
Right.
that you can take it home and have it as a memory.
That just kind of blows my mind a little bit that every single bottle has your brush strokes on it. I'm taking pictures now, so the people that might be following me on Instagram can look at the beautiful pictures of your bottles. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, that's at Tall Mike Wine. And Fabiano has a very entertaining Instagram feed as well. That's Mora Estate.
Yeah.
Is that Mora Estate? That's it?
Mora Estate singular.
At Mora Estate. And you can see Fabiano, what he's up to. And he's always up to something interesting. He's cooking paella here and there, and he's living the life is what he's doing.
I am. I am. I'm not tied up having a restaurant that I have to be at every day,
Sure.
working 16-hour days, and just
Hard
doing my
life.
events and
It's a
getting
hard-
hired by some people to
It's a
do
hard
that.
life, that restaurant life.
It is. But I also enjoyed it. And, my father was a wonderful chef. My mom was a great cook. So I grew up with good food and great
What was your
wines.
mom's name?
Pinuccia.
Pinuccia.
Yeah. You know what the special thing about this whole thing is? That my parents were around to see me reinvent myself.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there a time when you needed reinventing?
Well, I had the restaurant and I really got burnt out And at that time, I declined on buying my father's restaurant with his partner because I was just tired. It was just the wrong timing. But it actually brought me into another path, which I needed to experience.
Okay.
And that's struggle. Being an artist and pursuing your dreams while you're trying to keep your dream alive and you're supporting your family, it made me a better person. Not that I wasn't a good person, but it brought me where I am today, that I'm a different Fabiano that I would have been if I would have just bought my dad's restaurant.
And you wanted to go off on your own. You wanted to go a different path.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You had a chance. You could have just bought your dad's restaurant.
I empowered myself. I went out on a limb. I believed in myself. I was more than happy before I actually launched off my brand, or even while I had my brand, that I was actually assisting people with their dreams, with their restaurants, because I was managing their restaurant.
Okay.
I enjoyed that. I still love the restaurant business tremendously.
Isn't it great? It's fun.
Yeah.
I think, though, had I still been in restaurants during COVID, I might have gone a little nuts.
And I've done both, in front of the house and the back of the house.
Okay, but I've only done front of the house because I know the people in the back of the house just work way too hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I can't handle that.
Yeah, well,
I'd rather be out in front, talking to the people, helping them with wine, and having fun. It's still a long day. It's still a hard day. There's still a lot of challenges, but the back of the house. I wouldn't
be the person I am today, though.
The back of the house, people are working a lot harder.
They are. But if you're the owner, then you don't look at it that way.
No, that's a totally different deal.
Yeah.
All right, hold up one of the bottles. Let me take a picture of you with a microphone in one hand and the bottle in the other. This is the stereotypical Tall Mike Wine Podcast Instagram post picture. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will see Fabiano's
Let's try this one.
Picture. Oh, we'll do the other one too.
This might pop.
I want to do both. I'm going to do both. I can post as many as we need to, because I don't play by anybody's rules but my own.
That's right. High five on that, baby. High five on that.
All right, now, if you're enjoying the podcast as much as I enjoy producing it, I'd love a little help with the production costs. You can become a sponsor for as little as $3 a month, but don't let that stop you from going nuts and pledging more. $5? $10? Sure. Thanks to my newest sponsor, Julie Cohen in Tempe, Arizona, the former spring training home of my beloved Seattle Mariners, who are currently in first place in the American League West, and not far from my pal Steve, who takes part in the West Valley Wine Club over in Phoenix, also a sponsor of the show. Click the support the show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com, and I thank you. Fabiano has kindly just poured me the third wine in my glass, and I believe this is going to be
the 2016 Valporone,
the big wine.
There's a new trend taking place in Verona, in Veneto, that the wines are not rich and concentrated like they used to be in the 80s when the wines were being exported or imported for the American palate. The new trend now is making the wines a lot leaner.
Okay.
The alcohol here is 14.8.
Okay.
As opposed to 17.
Mm-hmm.
So the rich density, residual sugar, you're not going to find this. But what I learned from my studies was that the Corvina Veronese, which is the primary grape for the Amarone, is actually a distant cousin to Pinot. So this kind of has a Burgundian kind of flavor profile.
You just blew my mind, man.
Yeah.
You're sitting here in a Pinot house, of course. Nicholson Ranch, we make Pinot.
Yeah.
And Chardonnay, but Pinot is kind of the main thing.
Well, color-wise, it's got that nice cherry characteristic going on.
There's a little more red color to this than the Valpo. It has there's a little more of a mellow, like a little more stateliness to the color, I would say. This looks a little more serious.
It's a serious wine.
Yeah, a little more density here.
You're going to get some characteristics of some dried fruit characteristics, in the mid palate. Figs, dates.
Dark fruit that's got concentration to it. Not necessarily like it's been cooked, but like this is how it grows. When you say fig, it's like, oh yeah, figs are, how figs are like so like
when they're
intense.
drying up, not the fresh figs that you pick off a tree.
Okay, well, I've never picked figs off a tree before, Fabiano.
You have not? Come on, you're joking with me.
No.
How come?
Where am I going to pick figs off a tree?
There's got to be a fig tree around here.
There aren't any in my backyard in Nevada, California.
Anyway, the profile that we're actually talking about is a fig that's actually starting to, kind of like the grapes, when you dry it for the Amarone, you start to intensify their structure and their sweetness.
Right.
and the ripeness.
Ripe, and they've been sitting in the bowl for a while.
Yeah, but what may blow you away is that when you're sipping and the finish and everything, you're thinking that it may be higher alcohol with residual sugar, and you got a nice dry finish.
It doesn't taste too sweet at all.
No.
So tell me about this new trend. Is this something you're embracing?
Oh, I've embraced it from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that the trend is actually going towards what I already created 16 years ago.
So you think the people in the Veneto have started to make wines a little more New World in style because maybe that's the way the world is going? Or is that just the way they've naturally evolved?
I think everybody's kind of doing their own thing, but they're starting to see also, even as an American consumer, that, what they looked for in the 80s is not what they're looking for now at this present time. If you really look at it, when the Romans probably made this wine, it was probably with a lot of alcohol and residual sugar, because there was no control. I can definitely say that with the amount of sugar that they probably had going through the fermentation, they had a lot of stopped fermentation going on. So what does that mean? Residual sugar,
right?
High alcohol.
Sure.
Now you know why they had all those bacchanalias.
It's like, party on, Romans. Here we go.
Woohoo!
I love thinking about people that were, around hundreds of years ago, drinking wines that you're still making from that inspiration.
You're drinking history. It's a little bit different. And that's what I want to get out to the consumer, to my friends, that this is a beautiful wine that can be shared with everybody. Even the hand-painted bottles that you may order a bottle of wine and take it home with you and be a part of your memory, a part of your experience.
Exactly. Well, this is delicious, and it's got definitely some more density than the Valpo.
Of course.
I love this. What do you like to pair this with? What sort of dish are you going to cook, Chef Fabiano, to pair with this wine?
Well, like if you were in Veneto, wild game is something that they consider. A braised dish could be considered, like ossobuco or something along those lines. Okay. But it could go with anything because it's got really great acidity. So you can have it with a burger or you can have it with a pepperoni pizza.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
Either or.
And have it on a Tuesday night and make it a Saturday night, right?
I'm a big fan of believing that if it's Tuesday and you feel like opening the nicer bottle in your wine rack, then just fucking open the nicer bottle in your wine rack. Because life is short.
Plus my fiance.
Yes.
She's off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so
okay.
We'll definitely make a Tuesday, Wednesday, a Friday, or a Saturday.
That sounds like a hospitality industry schedule right there.
Maybe revealing too much here.
Do you have a website, a distributor? Where are your wines mainly sold? We talked about some of the nice restaurants.
Winery Direct in California. You go to moraestate.com, take a look at the website.
Wonderful.
And I do have distribution over in Florida. I'm in Utah. I'm in Montana.
You got into Utah?
I got into Utah a long time ago. Red carpet, baby.
It's not the easiest state to get your wines into.
It really wasn't. Well, for us, it wasn't that bad. But somehow Sundance requested my wine. And that was the red carpet that I needed.
These are obviously people that know things.
Yeah, back in 2009.
Maybe Robert Redford's there sipping a little of your wine.
I did not mention that I know Bob, but that was one of the requests.
Bob.
Okay,
well, tell Bob to tune into the podcast.
Bob and Billy, baby.
All right. What other Italian varietals are growing in Sonoma? Any interest in making a Sangiovese or maybe a Nebbiolo or some of the Sicilian grapes we don't even know about? That's an interesting region.
Well, I've been told, because I'm Sicilian, it's like, why don't I work on some varietals that come from Sicily?
A tribute to Mount Etna.
Yeah, I'll tell you. The wines that we drink most at the house are Barolos, Barbarescos, and wines from Etna. Okay. Those are the three.
Sure. Those are all very intense wines.
Well, they have a lot of structure, a lot of complexity, and they have to be 10 years or more in order to really enjoy it.
Right. So are you going to add those to the lineup at some point?
You know what? I haven't really found a place where Nebbiolo really works well.
Okay.
If there is a place, they say Buen Nacido in the Central Valley.
Okay.
Might be a good place. Hot. I think I'm going to kind of focus on what I have going on with Veneto, and I don't have to go to Piemonte for that. Okay. But I do love Barbera. I'm a huge fan of Barbera.
And who's growing the good Barbera here in Sonoma?
The best Barbera I've ever gotten was in Lodi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there were 100-year-old vines, 100-year-old vines,
Sure.
Head pruned.
Yep.
I was purchasing grapes for 10 years. Let me see. When I started my brand, I was able to tap into about 2 years, but unfortunately, my grower got older, and the family didn't care for to become growers.
Oh,
They
okay.
just wanted the property,
Sure.
and so they had to sell it.
Okay. And then what happened?
So the new buyer basically was trying to call his terms and conditions, and I'm not into it, man.
Did you put a curse on him? A Sicilian curse?
No curse. But it was great to just look at him from across
Right.
the table, eye to eye, and say, I don't need you anymore.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Do you have the Sicilian temper? The people that know
No,
you?
actually, I don't.
No?
No, I don't. You know what? I have a lot of integrity, and I expect that from other people that I work with or
Right.
or who I know. I treat people the way I like to be treated.
I like to say to people, I will respect you because I respect everyone around me until you convince me that I should not respect you by not respecting me. And
It's like a card game. He was bluffing. I called him on the bluff. And what do you say? A fangulo.
Fangulo. Oh. Fangulo.
Oh, fangulo. You may actually edit that part.
Are we saying dirty words in Italian now? I love that.
You may edit this part, but anyway.
No way, baby.
I'm going to leave it up to you.
No way. This is a podcast. We don't have to deal with the FCC. Fabiano,
Yes, sir.
have you been on many podcasts?
This is the second one.
How do you like it?
I really enjoy it because I'm comfortable. I'm sitting down.
Yeah, we got good chairs here.
We have good chemistry between each other. We're sipping wines. We are in the business. We completely understand what
Simpatico.
it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a total pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, it is my pleasure. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast was conceived and is written, produced, edited, and maintained by yours truly. To become a sponsor, click the Support the Show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com. And I thank you. To see behind the scenes, check out my Instagram at tallmikewine. If you'd like your very own set of official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters, they make any house a home. Drop me an email. That's tallmikewine@gmail.com. Be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on future episodes. And if you're new here, scroll all the way back to the beginning for lots of conversations. Back to episode 1. So much wine, so many good chats. Feel free to binge it all. A new episode will be coming soon, and thanks to my guest today, Fabiano Ramaci of Mora Estate Winery.
Thank you so much.
I'm Mike Stone, a.k.a. Tall Mike Wine. Keep swirling, keep sniffing, keep sipping. Cheers.
So that's the end of the episode. I'm done. And you want me to keep talking? Well, I mean, I guess I could. Anyway, hey, there's a way for you to get in contact with me. It's kind of a new thing. If you look at your phone right now and you look at the episode description, and right at the top, it says, send me some feedback. If you click on that, you can just send me a text. If you feel wordy, send me a text. Let me know how you like the show. If there's anything specific you like, if there's anything specific that annoys you, I'm open to feedback of any and all kinds, although I prefer the positive kind. Thanks in advance. I'll see you next time. Bye.